Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Blind Spots. This is part 2 to the 2-part series with Toby Weber and Nick Schuurmans. So if you haven't listened to part 1 already, go and listen to that first. Toby asked a question to Nick and said, what is one objective in 2023 that you want to accomplish at Pure Portfolios? So we're picking up where we left off, and without further ado, I'll kick it back to Toby and Nick.
Welcome to Blind Spots, a podcast where we're helping you fill the gap between what you want to do with your money and what you actually do. We are professional investors, writers, and financial planners helping you navigate the complexities of finance to optimize what you can control and cut out the rest. Join your host, Nick Schuurmans and Aaron Varghese, as we discuss the questions and nuances surrounding everyday money management.
So looking at this from the business perspective, so less about the markets and more about Pure Portfolios as a business.
Okay.
What is the one thing you learned in 2022 at Pure in a difficult investment environment? And then the sub part of that question is, what's one objective in 2023 that you're hoping we can accomplish at Pure this year?
So what did I learn in 2022 in a difficult market?
It's another one of my double questions.
So I actually just wrote a post about this, but I'm happy to share probably my two biggest things that I learned. And I'm always learning. So no one here has a fixed mindset. We're always learning. And the one thing that I learned is nothing the last 3 years, let's call it, and I think 2022 was the cherry on top. Nothing has to make sense and nothing has made sense. So humans tend to think in a cause and effect fashion, in a linear fashion. And that works well in chess. Like if I'm playing chess and I move a piece here, I can see the impact of that move because it's a fixed board. It's a fixed game. Cause and effect is easily established. In a world in investing where it's an extremely complex system, there's millions of variables that are constantly changing. We often get messy feedback. We get incomplete feedback. We get false feedback where we make a move, something happens, and we're trying to draw a clear line. It doesn't really work like that because while you're isolating one cause and effect, you have millions of variables moving on in the background. Okay. So what I learned is it's very hard in an environment like that, a complex system, to make investment decisions based on human gut instinct, right? Because we all have 0.00001% of our lives that explain the world to us. We use that to explain everything. And if you're making gut calls, it's impossible not to let your human bias creep into the process. And it's been very difficult for advisors and DIY, do-it-yourself investors to navigate that type of environment, to make it up as they go. It's been very helpful for us to have an investment framework to fall back on, right? To have a framework, a pre-built framework for us to make portfolio decisions. Now it's built by us. It has to make sense. We're constantly trying to improve it. But back again to the spring of 2020, the global economy was shut down. The markets were bouncing back. Our rules were telling us to add back equities. It felt awful. I lost sleep over it. I lost weight over it. I wanted to puke, but I leaned into that process and it turned out to be the right decision. I know so many investors, so many advisors that were paralyzed because there was no playbook. Nothing made sense. The market going up did not make sense when the global economy was shut down. They stayed in cash. They stayed hunkered down. And it ended up being a bad decision. So that's a long-winded way of saying I'm grateful I learned to have a pre-built framework, a built process for making portfolio decisions to lean into during difficult market environments.
Yeah, I would echo that learning in 2022, and that it was really the first time as a merged firm that we got to see, or that I got to see the investment approach in practice, and really in a pretty challenging investment environment last year. So as you said, having that framework, having that approach, and having it in advance of when things start to get difficult made it easier to manage client portfolios last year, and to know when to adjust risk down in portfolios. And then, the challenge for us moving forward is being in a position to add that risk back to make sure that we capture, an appropriate amount of the upside for clients when things start to improve.
Yeah. And the second part of that answer, so one is having a framework to make decisions. The other part of that is to communicate with clients. So clients want to know that you have a plan. They want to know that you're doing something. They want to know that you have two hands on the wheel So we really amped up our market related commentary. So I write a blog. I wrote more about market topics. We started doing video commentary each month. We started sending out a newsletter each month with what happened the previous month. So we really ramped up our communication. And in general, I think it's easy to work with a robo-advisor, with a Vanguard, with a low-cost leader when markets are going up. At the end of the day, when, again, I keep saying this, when the stuff hits the fan, people want to talk to other humans. So the best analogy that I could use, I have 3 kids. When my daughter has a fever and she's not feeling good, I can go on WebMD and figure out what to do. At the end of the day, I want to bring her to see a doctor. And I feel like there's a lot of parallels with that when it comes to money, because money's emotional. It's easy to be a bullish investor when markets are going up for the last decade. Much more difficult when you get COVID, when you get a war, when you get these COVID fallout. Like, this is an odd business cycle. People want to talk to other humans.
Yeah, I saw that last year when people would come to us with portfolios being managed elsewhere. And perhaps those portfolios had done very well over the last 10 years when the market, pretty much went straight up. But when the market was down last year, I think they realized that they were taking more risk in those portfolios than perhaps they thought. And those portfolios were skewed towards the investments that had worked, like technology. And those are the areas that were hit the hardest last year. And you had people come in to see us that, hey, I'm down 20, 25, 30, 35% in my portfolio this year. And obviously they're, frustrated, disappointed, but it's a situation where they maybe perhaps didn't realize how much risk was in their portfolio until it got exposed last year. And so again, having that framework, sticking to the framework, focusing on risk as we do with portfolios, made last year, not an easy year, but made it, more tolerable and helping our clients, work through it.
So I'm going to ask you my second question, and I'm going to follow it up with my personal question. So what heaven and earth would have to move for you to become bullish on U.S. stocks or on stocks in general?
All of your questions are about me and my perspective, and almost like you're trying to get me to change my viewpoint.
No. This is good. Opposites attract, and this is a good conversation. So what would cause you to be bullish?
I think that I have a balanced viewpoint, even though, as you indicated, and I agree, that I tend to look at things in a more pragmatic manner, and that can sometimes be perceived as pessimistic. I'm an older individual than you, so I've seen more than you've seen. Maybe that's part of how I got to that point. So what could happen to change that viewpoint? I'd like to think that I'm open to, seeing the facts change and then changing my view. And I'm not so dogmatic that, hey, every year the market's going to go down. That's not my perspective at all. My perspective is look at the balance of facts in front of you and then make a determination as to, how optimistic or how pessimistic to be in that year. But again, I'm not using my own biases to make investments for my clients. If I think the risk reward ratio is not favorable in a given period, we're still following our rules. If I think a risk reward ratio in a given year is very favorable, we're still following our rules. So I think it's important that we stick to that. So I'm perfectly willing to incorporate positive information into that mosaic that I use, as opposed to, blocking it out because I'm a perma bear, as you described me.
No, I think that's well said, and that's a good answer. And I'm giving you a bit of the business. I don't really think you're a doomsdayer. We certainly come across plenty of those, and you're not even close. And I think you said something there that it's a very underrated skill for an investor, the ability to change your mind. Things are always changing in this business. The economy changes, metrics change, the Fed changes. In keeping an open mind, staying flexible and not anchoring to one identity is a huge asset for a successful investor. Okay, pivoting, personal question. What's your biggest pet peeve? What pisses you off the most?
That's a tricky question because depending on how you answer it, could be misinterpreted. But my biggest pet peeve, Well, I mentioned one to you this morning. This isn't a great one, but I don't like it when people screw up my name. So that's not a very good one. But when you tell someone your name and they repeat it back to you and it's the wrong name, and then you correct them, and then they still refer to you by the wrong name, I don't know why, but that really bugs me. It's trivial in the grand scheme of things, but the impression I get from that is they don't take the time or have enough respect for you that they're going to make sure that they get that right. And I'm just the type of person that wants to get that type of stuff right. So that's not a very good one, but
No, I think that's a fair one. What about when you send an email to someone and your email address has your name in it, your signature line has your name in it, and they still reply with the wrong name?
yeah, that drives me nuts. Like you've had 3 or 4 opportunities here. You've seen my name, and so to come back and not get it right is poor form.
Well, and you have a pretty traditional name, Toby Weber. Ask someone
Pretty unusual name. I mean, there's not a lot of Tobys out there.
Yeah, but it's not like Nicholas Schuurmans with double A and W. So I'm actually the opposite. I expect people to butcher my name. I always tell my wife, N-I-K. This 3-letter name is the most misspelled name in human history because I've seen it N-I-C, N-I-C-K. It doesn't even bother me anymore. It really doesn't, because it's almost expected.
Okay.
So,
My personal question for you. So I know you enjoy golf in your free time, the amount of free time you have. Some would say that golf is a silly activity, basically hitting a little white ball towards a hole somewhere in the distance. What is it about golf that you enjoy, and why do you find yourself continuing to go back to it?
that's a very good question. And golf is a stupid game. It really is a stupid game. You're trying to get a ball in a hole. It's a dumb game. You're carrying around sticks and you're hitting them and you're chasing them and you're getting angry. As I've grown older, I'm 41. I have 3 kids. I have limited free time, but golf, one, it's my competitive outlet. I'm not going to go pick up basketball and blow out my ACL. That's just not what I'm into. So golf is how I compete. It gives me some bro time. So I've got a regular group that I play with, a lot of guys that are in the same spot as me. We all have families, we all work, and it's our escape. And so we enjoy having a cocktail or two. We turn on the music. It's very laid back, and we just catch up with each other and enjoy each other's company. 3, it gives me a reason to get outside. I sit in front of a computer on my butt pretty much all day, every day. And I walk. I still carry my clubs. I hate carts. I really enjoy just slowing down the pace, not looking at a screen. I don't look at my phone when I play golf. I just really enjoy being present. And then I really have gotten into the game. Like, golf is a very nuanced game with technical things, the mental game. I've always said, and Toby, I think we've talked about this, but you can tell a lot about a person with the way they carry themselves on the golf course, how they react to a bad shot, how they react to an unlucky break. And I think there's a very real human side to golf that I very much enjoy. And then the last thing, and this is going to sound weird, and this has come off in the last 18 to 24 months, I've gotten really into golf fashion. So golf fashion back in the 80s and 90s was like this overweight dude smoking a heater, drinking a beer, wearing a shirt that's like a hockey jersey, and it's made out of wool. It's 100 degrees in Georgia, and it's like that just looks absolutely miserable. But the golfer has changed. The golfers are now athletes. And Tiger started it. He's wearing the form-fitting, dry fit, showing off his guns, and it's really propelled. And now there's all these unique boutique golf companies that are making form-fitting stuff that I can wear to the office. I can wear out to dinner with my wife. I can wear on the golf course. And I've gotten really into it.
That's good. I think I'm a golfer as well, as you know, not as good a golfer as you are, but I think golf is a microcosm of life. You bring certain things to the golf course like you do to life. You're going to have good experiences. You're going to have bad experiences. And as you said, you find out a lot about people when you play golf with them. As you get older, the ability to catch up with friends, family on the golf course or wherever becomes more and more important. So that's one of the, I play golf for the social aspect of it, as you mentioned. That's most important to me. I'm not the type of guy that would go out and, play 18 or 36 holes of golf by myself. I don't enjoy it enough to do that, but I think it's a great game, and I'm glad you get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So ask me the pet peeve question again. I want to give you a different answer.
What's your biggest pet peeve? What really pisses you off?
I think the one pet peeve that I have, when I came into this business 6 years ago, I wasn't sure whether I'd be successful, whether I'd be able to do it. I think there's a difference between knowing a lot of people in my career, having a lot of folks in my network that I've worked with or known over the years, but that's different than somebody saying, hey, I'm going to trust you with my nest egg and trust you with my financial wherewithal moving forward. So the pet peeve I have is I've been fortunate to be able to do that in this business. But the pet peeve is when you reach out to somebody and you say, hey, let's grab coffee, let's grab lunch, or hey, this is what I'm up to now, and share that with them, and you get no response. You don't get, hey, I've got a guy, I'm good, or hey, I do it myself, or anything like that. But I get frustrated sometimes when people just don't even respond. I think they don't want to hurt my feelings, like, oh, I don't want to tell them that I'm, not going to work with them. But, that's probably a pet peeve of mine. I'm comfortable enough to ask people because I know I can help them. And if they're don't want to take me up on that, that's fine. But a pet peeve of mine is when you just don't get any response at all.
Ghosting. That's something the kids call ghosting.
I don't know if that's a better pet peeve or not.
I think your first one's better, but we can let Aaron decide. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope this allowed you to get to know us a little bit more on the personal level, as well as get our thoughts on what's happening in financial markets. Toby and I are going to do this once a month going forward. So feel free to give us feedback, what you liked, what you did not like, but appreciate you watching and listening. Stay tuned next time for another edition of Blind Spots.